What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monte Sports Show. It is Sunday, March 14th, 2021. I am your host, Monte Perez, a.k.a. The Sports Whisperer. I want to thank everyone for tuning in last week. We had 35 states watch the full Monte Sports Show live on YouTube. Our goal is to do this 5 days a week, and I can only do that with your help. So if you like this show, like sports and comedy, tell one friend, tell one family member, tell a coworker, and let's get this thing rolling. You can follow me all over social media. On Facebook, Monte Perez. On Twitter, Monte JP231. And on Instagram, Monte Perez 2. We have the best guests all across the country, and this week is no exception. In about 15 minutes, Brad Ward on Sports, going to join us to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. I was going to say, and also the Cleveland Browns. A lot going on with them. I think they're going to keep Odell Beckham Jr., so that is something I'm shocked about. I thought they were going to trade him, but if you like the NFL, the NBA, this is the show for you. Like I said, we have Brad Ward coming on, and then in 40 minutes, we're going to have Jeff Barnes come on and Greg Rector. They're going to talk about the NBA. They're going to talk about the NFL draft. They're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott, and they're going to talk about, the NFL draft, Toronto Raptors. We are loaded today. Don't go anywhere for the next hour and a half. We got you covered. And, of course, keep the comments coming on the top right-hand corner. We love having the comments. I don't get to read all of them on the show, but I look at it during the week, and I get to all of them during the week. Keep them coming. Just another way for us to be interactive with the show and get you involved. Like I said, we have listeners all across the country, so this is a great way for you to, talk to us live and talk to us during the week about what you're thinking. And I definitely want people to comment today because we're going to talk about pet peeves. We're going to talk about pet peeves, and I want to know what your pet peeve is. But let's start our journey today with this. Okay, so I moved to Florida a few years ago, and we started this a few weeks ago. Before I do my opening rant, we always talk about the craziness that happens in Florida, right? I don't know if it's the weather. I don't know because it's always sunny, but these are things that only happen in Florida. Okay, so according to the Miami-Dade Police Department, Daniel Gonzalez and Victor Bernil of Miami were providing dental services in a bus located in a parking lot. Here's a picture of the bus, okay? And after several months of investigation, undercover operatives from the Florida Department of Health posted as patients, went into the bus, and both individuals were taken in custody without incident and charged with unlicensed activity, according to the police. Neither have a license in Florida to practice dentists, and Bernil was charged with drug possession with intent to sell and dispense drugs without a prescription. When asked why they started this fake dental service, they said one of their pet peeves was being overcharged at the dentist. Now, I just want to really, people have pet peeves, right? People have pet peeves, and they start legitimate businesses because they get annoyed with either the pricing or what has happened with the service. Dollar Shave Club, right? Dollar Shave Club is a great example of this. Dollar Shave Club is huge amongst men and women. They started this company because they said that the price of razor blades was too high. Another, Bombas socks. These guys are making so much money, and for every pair you order at Bombas socks, they donate a pair to homeless shelters. They said that they just weren't happy with the way that socks were made. So these are things that are positive, right? Not a fake dental service, but Dollar Shave Club, Bombas socks. So it got me thinking about my pet peeves. Pet peeves is an adult thing. Because when I was growing up, I didn't have pet peeves, but there were things that really annoyed me. For example, you're out playing with your friends, and then you get that call, come and eat dinner, come and eat dinner, right? And then the other thing that annoys you as kids, nap time and time for bed. Time for bed. Think about that. Growing up, the two things that you didn't want to do is you didn't want to leave your friends to go eat dinner, and you didn't want to go to bed early or take a nap. These are things that as an adult, I live for. I live for. Every Friday night, me and my family, we order food. We used to go out. We're going to start going out again once this COVID gets, subsides. But I love Friday night dinners. And my favorite time of the day is 5 minutes before I'm about to fall asleep. Once I take my melatonin gummy and that calmness sets over me. So what I want you to do right now, I'm going to go over my pet peeves. I have a couple of them. And I want you to comment. Feel free to comment about your pet peeves. All right? Feel free to comment. Tell us what your pet peeves are. My first pet peeve, fitted sheets. I like to think that I've made my bed. I make my bed every morning before work. I like to think that I've changed my sheets at least 5,000 times. But every time I do it, I got to call my brother Pete in and tell him, hey, can you help me? Because fitted sheets, this happens to me all the time. I put it on and then boom, it comes off. So fitted sheets is one of my pet peeves. Another one of my pet peeves, I'm not as bright as I want to be. I'm not as bright as I want to be. And I had this conversation with my friend Mike last week. I said, Mike, I'm so dumb that if I went back in time, let's say to the 1950s, I would not be able to prove that I am from the future. And I'll give you an example. I'd see a telephone booth, right? And I'd say, hey guys, I'm from the future. You want me to prove it to you? See that telephone? Yeah, you see that telephone where everyone, puts a quarter in? One day, you're going to have a telephone that you can hold in your pocket. And you can make calls. You could email. They don't even know what email is. So I have to say, you could text, write a letter to someone, and they see it on their phone. Now, they're going to ask me, okay, really? So you have a phone in your pocket. How does that work? Again, I'm trying to prove I'm from the future. I go back to the 1950s, and this is what I would come up with. I'd say, well, there's like a dish in the sky, and the rays travel off that dish, and they're like, dish? Like, plate? I'm like, no, it's like a satellite dish. And they're like, what's a satellite dish? And I have to say, it's a dish in the sky because I can't explain it. So I get frustrated. Again, I'm trying to prove that I'm from the future when I go back to the 1950s. And I say you could have pictures, you could have music on your phone. They say, how do you do that? I say, I don't know. It's like in the cloud somewhere. And they're like, what do you mean? They build stuff in the clouds? How do they do that? Again, I can't explain I'm from the future. Then I get so frustrated. I say, okay, you guys watch TV, right? They have reality TV. That's big in the future. They're like, what's reality TV? I'm like, what did you do today? He's like, I went to work at the gas station. I came home. My wife had dinner. We watched the Yankee game. Okay, that's a show. They follow you at work. They watch you change the oil. They watch you pump the gas. He's like, why would anyone want to watch me work? Why would anyone want to watch my wife cook dinner? Exactly. Exactly. I'm so dumb, and this is a pet peeve of mine. I can't, if I went back to the 1950s, I'd be worse off than I am now. I'd be like a busboy at a diner. My situation in life would be worse because I don't know how anything works. So my pet peeve is I'm not as smart. People think I'm smart, but I'm like George Costanza. I'm not. Okay, I'm going to give you two more pet peeves. You ever hear the 5-second rule? Where you drop something on the floor and you have 5 seconds to pick it up before it gets germs on it. I don't buy that. My rule is it depends on what the food is. That's my 5-second rule. For example, if I'm having lettuce and it falls off the floor, I don't care if it's a second. I don't care if it's 10 minutes. I'm not getting it. I'm not picking it up because let's be honest, the lettuce was probably in a taco salad and it's just garnish. So if I drop some lettuce on the floor, I'm not picking it up. I'm not picking it up. Now, conversely, I went to In-N-Out Burger the last time I lived in LA. It was one of the last days I was there. I go to In-N-Out Burger. I bring the food home. The bag falls on the floor. Like 10 French fries go under the oven in my kitchen. What do? I get a stick, okay? And I fight for those 10 French fries. I pull them out of the oven. I wash them off. I put them a minute into my fryer back in the day. And that's what I do. So this 5-second rule is a pet peeve of mine because let's face it, it really depends on the food. If it's lettuce, no, it's staying there forever. If it's French fries, I'll go after it 10, 15 minutes after, maybe even a day or two after. Okay, 2 more quick pet peeves of mine. Drinking games. We've all been to tailgate. Those of us who went to college, drinking games, hated them in college. Okay? Quarters, beer pong, cornhole. I went to a party before I left New Jersey, a Halloween party, and the adults were playing drinking games. Let me explain something to all of you. Let me be crystal clear. I don't need a game to get drunk. Okay? You know what my game is? You know what my drinking game is? Life. That's my drinking game. Life. My coworkers. I can't stand my coworkers. Yeah, this is true. Sometimes I have my headphones in at work with nothing playing so I don't have to talk. That's one of the reasons why I drink, okay? My ex-girlfriend from college, she said when I broke up with her, you're doing me a favor because you are not marriage material. You are not marriage material. She's about to get married for the 4th time. She's about to get married for the 4th time. I don't need drinking games. My life is a drinking game. My niece has not texted me in 6 months. I texted her yesterday a video, a music video when we used to watch this movie. She didn't text me back. That's my drinking game. The pain, the anger. I have family members who are QAnon. So don't tell me I need a drinking game. That is a pet peeve of mine. What do you need a game for to drink? Life will wear you down. And finally, my last and final pet peeve. When I was younger, this didn't really matter. When I was younger, this didn't really matter. But as you get older, priorities, things change. Okay. One of my pet peeves is when a woman says, when I'm dating, tell me your fantasy. Tell me your fantasy. I want to know your fantasy. Okay, you want to know my fantasy? I'll tell you. I want you to dress up as a sexy doctor. Okay? I want you to dress up as a sexy dentist. Really sexy. And I want you to come over and I want you to tell me, whisper in my ear, real quick. Say, Monty, you have great insurance. Or say, Monty, your copay has been waived. That's a fantasy. You know why that's a fantasy? I'll tell you why that's a fantasy. Because I spent $300 at the dentist with insurance. With insurance. $300 at the dentist with insurance the other day. So for all you people who think, hey, tell me your fantasy. What is it? Yeah, that's my fantasy. That's my fantasy. I want people to dress up a woman and tell me that they're waiving my copay because I don't want to spend $300 at the dentist. All right. And that is the end of my opening rant. Now, before we get Brad Ward on and before we do the good, the bad, and the ugly, let's check out some of your comments. You would get, yeah, exactly. Pet peeve. Let's see what. Time frame. We've all waited for people. Okay, we've all waited for people who say, "Hey, you're going to be there between 10 and 2. We're going to be there between 10 and 2," and they show up at 3 o'clock. Yes, keep the comments coming. Keep the pet peeves coming. Yes, I do need to work on my fantasies. Listen, when you spend $300 at the dentist with insurance, that is my new fantasy. My new fantasy is waiving my copay. That would turn me on. Okay, because I have pretty good insurance. And they're charging me an insane amount of money. All right, Let's start with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's get right to it. Look, the Dallas Mavericks won last night. They beat a good Denver Nugget team. They beat a good Denver Nugget team. And let me tell you something, guys. I don't know how good this team could be, but Kristaps Porzingis is playing great. They've won 10 out of 12 games. Luka Doncic, 28 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. They got to be aggressive in the trading deadline. They got to be aggressive in the trading deadline because I think the Dallas Mavericks can really, really do a great job here, and I think they can make a run. Their defense is not great, but they are playing some really good basketball, and I think Dallas will be a tough out. We saw them last year against the Clippers, so congrats to them, doing a tremendous job, and that's the good. Let's move to the bad. Look, Duke men's basketball season is over following a positive corona case in their program. The team is withdrawing from the AC tournament. One member tested positive for the coronavirus. The season is terminated. This marks the end for 24-year streak of NCAA tournament play. Look, I'm wearing my Duke dark blue today. Very sad that Duke Blue Devils. Look, but I was talking about this with Jeff Barnes, who's going to join us later, right before the show. They were 13-11, 9-9 in conference play. Listen, Georgetown just won. Okay, they were terrible all season. I think they're 13-12 now. They're getting to the NCAA tournament. But we've seen COVID really wreak havoc on teams, right? Penn State football was 4-5. Michigan was 2-2. Kentucky basketball is 9-16. So we're not going to see Mike Krzyzewski in the tournament, and that's a sad thing for me, who's a Duke fan. It's a sad thing for basketball. Anytime Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky is good, it makes the NCAA tournament a lot better and college basketball a lot better. So that's the good, the bad. Now to the ugly. Look, I have no sympathy for Myers Leonard of the Miami Heat. Faced repercussions after he used an anti-Semitic slur during a game of Call of Duty. The Heat big man said, "You effing coward. Don't effing snipe me, you effing kike bitch." That's what he said. Now, I don't need to tell you how things work when you're a professional athlete or in the media. I think that Leonard should be suspended for the rest of the season. And here's why. I don't have the following Leonard has, okay? I don't have a following a lot of sports figures have, announcers have. Over 14,000 followers on Twitter in over 2 years. I never curse on social media. I've done over 500 radio shows, podcasts, and we started doing this YouTube show officially in September. I've cursed once talking about the domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol. I said BS. One time in 500 shows. When I post on social media, I posted a picture of my dinner on Friday on my balcony. I posted a picture of a glass of wine and the meal. I never post me holding alcohol. I never curse. I'm aware of my social media presence. How are you not aware, Myers Leonard? How are you not aware of what's happening here? You're on the internet. You're talking through thousands of people. You have a ton of followers on social media, and you're using the term kike. And I don't even want to tell you how big the Jewish community here is in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, how many events they sponsor for the Miami Heat. Have some self-awareness. And I hope it was just him being ignorant. I hope this is not really how he thinks, because if this is really how he thinks, there's no room for someone like that in the NBA. The NBA, you could say whatever you want. They just raised $3 million, okay, for historically black colleges. And what Myers Leonard did here was an absolute disgrace. If he's using this term casually with his friends on a microphone, what is he doing all the time? So I hope the Heat suspend him for longer than a week, and I hope that Myers Leonard, he wrote a very appeared to be sincere apology, but you got to question someone who uses the term kike like he did right there. And that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, we're going to get Brad Ward on in 30 seconds. Again, keep the comments coming. We love having comments. Yes, Well, I think parents can say that too. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything, and you know that they're guilty. Keep the comments coming. Keep, give us your pet peeves throughout the day, and we'll get to them. We're going to bring on Brad Ward, Ward on Sports, one of our favorite guests. Brad, how you doing this morning?
Monte, long time no see, brother.
Long time no see. Glad that I follow you on social media. You have a tremendous following of Cleveland Brown fans, of Cleveland Cavalier fans. Let's talk right as I put the Cleveland Cavalier background up there. Let's talk about this team. Okay, they're 13th in the East. They started off strong. All of a sudden, they say Andre Drummond's not going to be part of the mix here. What's gone wrong with this team?
They're just not ready. They're young. They're inexperienced. They were playing good defense early on in the season, and Drummond was bought in for a little bit. Kevin Love there right in the middle. Why is Kevin Love on this team still? I don't understand that. It's a rebuild process, right? And they need to fully embrace the rebuild, in my opinion. So I don't think they have yet. So their media availability after the All-Star break, they're talking about the playoffs, right, on Friday. Okay, that's fine. I understand. You're only 3.5 out of the 8 seed, but let's be realistic here. Drummond's not going to get traded. Nobody's taking on that contract. That's a buyout, right? They're just not in a good position, as far to compete right now, and they're treating it like they should be competing. It's a rebuild, right? It takes time.
Yeah,
it takes time.
And here's the thing, Brett. Give us. This is what I don't understand about it. People say all the time, "Oh, you can't rebuild in New York." Well, you know what? The Knicks have been rebuilding. They've had one playoff series win since 2000. So they're not rebuilding, but they're failing. So this is what I don't understand. When LeBron James left, Dan Gilbert, the first time, wrote a scathing letter talking about loyalty, whatever. Then the second time LeBron leaves, he goes to the Lakers, and Dan Gilbert says, well, it's going to be nice to have my team back. What are you talking about? The 4 years that LeBron left in Miami, they didn't make the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs since. Is Dan Gilbert becoming the Jerry Jones of the NBA where, they had some success, and now he tries to do too much, and he doesn't know what the hell he's doing?
Yeah, he certainly meddles too much, definitely. He makes a lot of the personnel decisions. Kobe Altman, GM, now all the GMs they've had some good ones in there, and he just doesn't value the GM position because he thinks he can do it, right? And Kobe Altman is a great young mind. I think that he's drafted pretty decently. They've got some good young pieces on the team. There's some big questions around Darius Garland for the next 30 games. Really, what is he going to be? Colin Sexton is turning into a really good player. But
he's a much better scorer than I thought he would be. Sexton.
Yeah, and I think he'll be a good player for them for a long time. But Garland has a much higher ceiling, and he just has to figure it out, right? So these next 30 games are really important for him. Obviously, no summer league, COVID-19, none of this has helped these teams that are trying to rebuild. Those summer leagues, off season, that's when these guys get better. They drafted Isaac Okoro. I like him a lot. He's a great defender, but he has no jump shot yet. That'll come. This is just going to take time in the NBA. It takes time. Like you talked about with the Knicks. Sometimes teams rebuild for a decade. You can't really rebuild in the NBA until you hit an absolute home run in the draft. Somebody that is a top 10 player in the NBA. Like I mentioned, why is Kevin Love still on this team? What purpose does he serve to be on the Cavs at this point?
When does he play? When was the last time he played?
Well, he was questionable last night, so he's supposed to be back any day. So I think they play Atlanta tonight. He might play tonight, but I think at this point he just serves okay, here's what we look like with a good stretch four, so it can give them an idea of what they need in the future. But really, and Kevin Love likes Cleveland, loves it. He wants to be here. Obviously,
Kevin Love. When everyone left, he's like, "No, this is my home."
Right.
Kevin Love, I give him credit. He does so much for the community. When COVID hit, he donated a bunch of money to the people who worked in the arena. the fans love Kevin Love, even though he's not
They
producing
do.
on the court.
They do, and he hasn't been healthy and stuff. But ultimately the major thing is like he shouldn't even be on this team. He should be on a contending team somewhere. Like what does he serve on this team in the rebuild, right? Like those minutes should go to a younger power forward that you're trying to develop.
So here's the problem I had, and I brought this up. It seems like I bring this up every week. When the Knicks hired Phil Jackson as their president and GM, I said Phil Jackson is not Pat Riley. Phil Jackson is not going to go all across the country and watch games. He's not going to watch film on college players. Now, you said Dan Gilbert meddles too much. My thing is Dan Gilbert is not going all across the country scouting college players. He's not putting hours in. Same thing with Jerry Jones. Don't tell me Jerry Jones watches a guy from UTEP, University of Texas, El Paso. He's not doing it. So why does Dan Gilbert continue to meddle when he's never won without LeBron James?
To be honest, Monte, I mean, saying you've never won without LeBron James or just being able to say that you won in Cleveland is kind of the fact that he won a title here, whether it was with LeBron James or not, gives him some sort of validation in his mind, I'm sure.
But does he get a pass because they went to 4 straight finals, they won, they came back, the greatest deficit in history, only team ever.
Well, he's the owner, too. It's not like you can fire the owner. I mean, he's going to do what he wants.
Does he get a pass from the media because he has a title?
A little bit, I'm sure, right now, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that he provided and helped provide, and he dished out all the money to go way over the luxury tax and pay all those huge contracts for those 4 straight years. I mean, they maxed out the amount of money that he paid, just throwing monies at guys, birds' rights. They were way, way, way over the cap for all those years because they kept retaining those guys. And he didn't blink in doing it because he wanted to win a title here in Cleveland. So he does get a pass from fans and the press, sure.
Okay, so what's going to happen here? No one's going to trade for him because if they were going to do it, they would have done it already. Where do you think he's going to end up? What can they get for him? I mean, is there anything that you would take for this? I mean, at this point, do you take a second-round pick? Because it doesn't seem like NBA teams want to give up because they maybe played their hand and said, hey, we're going to sit this guy now. So what are you doing with him?
They're sitting him strictly just to keep him healthy because they came to an agreement that we're going to seek a trade partner, right, for the trade deadline, and we don't want you to get hurt, But realistically, $28 million for a big who can't shoot in today's NBA and doesn't protect the rim all that well isn't going to garner any, you know what I mean? He rebounds, he's aggressive around the rim, but that's not what you need in today's bigs in the NBA. Like, he's not the ideal big for a team. Certainly, he could fill a role somewhere. Certainly, the Lakers could use him. Certainly, a lot of contending teams could use him, right? But I just think that, I don't know. Nobody's going to give up.
You bring up a good point with the Lakers because last year they had 2 bigs in JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard who didn't shoot the 3, but they protected the rim, they rebound, and they were very good finishers, right? He's not a great shot blocker at all. He's a very good rebounder, but he doesn't protect the rim like you said.
No, he doesn't. He's a great rebounder. He's actually a pretty good passer, so it is what it is. It's Andre Drummond, $28 million. Nobody's going to give you a pick to take on that contract, basically, at this point. Yep. So that's going to be a buyout. I just don't see any way around it. They're going to have to buy out his contract, and somebody's going to sign him. And he'll sign on with a contender somewhere, and that's perfectly fine for the Cavs. Because one of the good things they did in the first half was acquire Jarrett Allen, who is a big guy on the rise, and he has been very good for the Cavs. So I think that he is a piece of their future moving forward.
No, that's a great point. And yes, I did mention LeBron James, and as you know, here's our drinking card.
Uh-oh.
So when I mentioned LeBron, there you go. Brad, actually, you're getting a lot of comments here today, Brad. Look,
yes,
you're having a good hair day. You're like, I love the black and white. Love the black and white background. I'm getting a nice shirt, Monte. All right, so we're getting some compliments here as we're talking with Brad Ward here live on the
Two
Full
good-looking
Monty.
guys on the on YouTube today.
Two
How good
good-looking, knowledgeable men. Brad, so the
Yes.
final thing I'm going to say with this is you mentioned that, he doesn't shoot the three. I talked about the Dallas Mavericks earlier. If I'm the Dallas Mavericks, I get someone who's going to protect Kristaps Porzingis, and I go after him. Right? You think that would be a good fit?
Makes sense. Yeah, definitely. Did they have like Maxi Kleber and Dwight Powell behind there playing center for them?
Yeah, and they do center by committee. I think that would be great if they do that. All right, Brad. So let's move towards the Cleveland Browns. Listen, great year with the Browns. They played the Chiefs very well, lost 22-17. What is your mindset now? Like, this is a huge difference from last year's offseason to this year's offseason. What is your mindset? Because I got to be honest with you. I'm saying right now, and I can't believe I'm saying it, this is the best team in the AFC.
In the AFC North, is that what you said?
North.
Yeah. Right now, I think they are the best team in the AFC North with the Ravens. I'm glad to see as a Browns fan, I was like, please bring Roethlisberger back. He's beat us for 17 straight years.
Exactly.
Let's get a couple more shots on him on his way out the door. But yeah, I think it's the Ravens and the Browns in the North. And obviously, I don't think the Bengals are that far behind because Burrow is going to be fantastic. So it depends on what they put around him. It's going to be one of the best leagues again. But the mindset in Cleveland is go after it, right? You've got a quarterback on a rookie contract for 2 more seasons. This season and next season, they should be ultra aggressive in going after it and trying to win a title. I think that's your mindset. And they went and they fixed the offensive side of the ball. They have the whole offense coming back, not losing a player except for maybe Rashard Higgins. Rashard Higgins, pardon me. But other than that, so you've got to address the defense. It's a defense offseason.
So, your mindset is totally different than last year. Last year, you didn't know what to expect with Kevin Stefanski. No. Now there's like a little bit of swagger, right?
Yeah, Kevin Stefanski proved to be elite. He's been terrific preparation-wise. He outcoached guys. He's even-keeled, attention to detail, proverbial adult in the room that has been missing for so many years in Cleveland. Him and Andrew Berry, the youngest GM in the NFL, in lockstep, makes you feel very confident about where this team is going, for sure.
So I heard earlier this week, I don't understand it. You and I always disagree about this, okay? Yeah. They're saying Kevin Stefanski came out and say, I want Odell Beckham Jr. back on the roster. Yeah. But we've seen it is night and day with Baker Mayfield, how good he's been without OBJ, probably because he's trying to feed him too much. And you said this as well. There's a weird feeling with Odell Beckham Jr. When I watch the Kansas City Chiefs play and a quarter goes by without Tyreek Hill touching the ball, you don't feel like they're going to force it to him. You just feel like they're taking what the defense gives you. But there's like a panic that goes on when a quarter goes by and Odell Beckham Jr. doesn't touch the ball. Do you agree with them bringing him back?
I do for a couple of reasons. And let me put it like this. I think if somebody you have to listen to all the offers, right? So if somebody called an offer at a 1 or a 2, I would think really long and hard about moving him. Just because regardless, this is his last year in Cleveland contract-wise. Because you can get out scot-free next year and they're going to need the money other places. And you can't continue forward with $30 million plus in your wide receiver room. You just can't
Does that put the Browns in a disadvantage? Because teams will say, hey, he's not signing next year. He can walk anywhere. So does that put you as a bargaining chip in kind of a disadvantage?
I don't think so because he's under contract still. So it would be the Browns releasing him.
Okay.
So he's still under contract, but they're out from underneath all the guaranteed money, which they would have been out from this year, but he got hurt, so it triggered like $12 million of it guaranteed. So, if he stays on the roster. Now, if they trade him, they can get relief on that. So if somebody offered a 1 or a 2, I would think long and hard about it, and I would maybe go out and try to sign. They need some more speed in that room, so maybe a Curtis Samuel or something like that, who would be on a cheaper deal and kind of fit the offense more. But
Plus,
here's
Curtis
what
Samuel's like a he's all-purpose back. He can run
Love
in the
him.
backfield. He can play a little tight end. He can play wide receiver. Yeah, no, that would be a great pickup.
It'd be perfect for the offense. I've been pounding my tape about that all offseason. But he wants Odell back, and they keep saying that, and they have to say the right things about it because ultimately I don't think anybody's going to come to him with that offer, right? Basically, because he's coming off the injury. He looks great in rehab. I don't worry about him coming off the injury. He's such a hard worker. He'll be fine there. And I think he'll be fine off the injury. Here's how Barry framed it when asked the same question you're asking me, because you see the stark contrast in Baker Mayfield's numbers where he was like second best, grade from week 7 on in the NFL as a quarterback, which was the week that Odell went down. So what's the difference? Like, it was pretty evident to everybody watching that they were much better offense without him. Well, that's also their first year in that offense. So Barry framed it as, it took them a while with the truncated offseason and everything to get the offense going. Now that he's comfortable in that offense, insert Odell Beckham Jr., and, the sky could be the limit, So that's what he gave the press. Now, do I totally believe that? Not really. I think he totally has effect on Baker. But if Baker is matured and feels comfortable in the offense and can come back more confident this year, and they can take off, they totally need a receiver like Beckham. That's what they're missing, is the guy that can take the top off. So if he can come back and play healthy, and Baker can still perform at the level he was for the last 13 games of the season last year, then, their offense can be incredible.
Now, I think this team has the best skill positions out of any team in the NFL, even the Chiefs. They got 2 wide receivers. They use a bunch of tight ends. They have 2 running backs. But can I say to you right now, this team is better with Jarvis Landry as the number 1 wide receiver and Odell Beckham Jr. as the number 2.
Well, certainly so far that's been the case. But, Odell's been hurt for a lot of it. And he also takes... When Odell's on the field, he changes everything, right? He draws the safety over the top. He gets double-teamed. So it opens things up for a lot of other guys. Like Landry had a tremendous year 1 with him because Odell was getting doubled every down, right? Last year, Landry and Higgins came on at the end of the year, had a really good year. They got kind of hit gold late in the draft with Donovan Peoples-Jones, who looks like he's going to be a good one. So they have some guys there that can fill the receiver spot without Beckham. Their skill position is excellent. But, yeah, I mean, I think Landry is the heart and soul of the team. I would like to see him retire as a Brown, in my opinion. He has been there. It was his trade that kind of triggered this turnaround. Like,
of course, he's very good friends. He told Odell Beckham Jr. this is where we need to be. They were best friends at LSU. They're very close. So, yeah, I've said all along, I think he's phenomenal, and he should be the number 1 wide receiver. Wow, look at this. Your voice and tone is so convincing. I would buy the Brooklyn Bridge from him if he thought I needed it. So, Brad, if you ever want to, run a scam, a pyramid scam,
scam.
Definitely contract Laura.
It's probably my sales background kicking in there.
Okay, so listen, we talked about this team on offense, okay, and they could use a few pieces here. But on the outside looking in, this is what I think they need defensively. Let me know what you think. First and foremost, I think they need a safety. I think they need someone in the secondary who's a playmaker, who can cause turnovers. And I would love to see them get either a linebacker who blitzes or another defensive end who can sack the quarterback. Tell us where you think they should go defensively.
Yeah, so I think a lot was learned from the Super Bowl this year. And, like, the AFC moving forward is super competitive, great quarterbacks, ton of really good teams. You got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, these are teams that are going to be at the top of the AFC every year.
Can you mention Justin Herbert, please?
Justin Herbert, okay. Baker Mayfield. All these guys are going to be at the top of the AFC. Bunch of studs, good offenses moving forward, right? In order to beat these teams, you have to have a front 4 that can get home. Pass rush is so important in the NFL. We saw Tampa Bay do it. They won the Super Bowl doing it. That's the only way you can defend some of these guys that can get out of the pocket and make stuff happen. So I think job 1 in the offseason is they have to find the long-term solution opposite Myles Garrett. on the front four. So I think they will attack that in free agency with guys like maybe Carl Lawson or a Romeo Okwara or a Trey Hendrickson. And I think they also should attack it at 26 in the draft. I really like a guy named Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia. Hoping he's there at 26, or Joseph Asai from Texas. I think one of those guys will be there at 26. I think that's job one, is to shore up the other side of the front four and make that pass rush really potent. Because with Sheldon Richardson and Myles Garrett on the other side, that would be pretty dynamite up front. And then you've got, I think, the rest of the defense, you have to improve the secondary. Now, I will tell you that the analytics guys that run the front office do not value off-ball linebacker very much. So they will not. And it's like they're running back of the defense, right? They just don't value the position as much.
Right.
And I don't necessarily agree with it. Like, if Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was there at 26, I would jump all over him. I think he's a great linebacker out of Notre Dame. He was the other guy I would take at 26 if he was there, because I think it would solve a lot of their linebacker problems. They need somebody that can cover in that room. They've got like a lot of guys that can do one thing, but not one guy that can do everything, right? I think that guy potentially is there in Jacob Phillips, but he needs to take a step forward this year in his second year. Fast guy, great athlete at LSU. He could be a good linebacker, but he was dinged up a lot his rookie year. They do need to address that. I think, though, their second attack on the defense side, in one way you can get better on defense, cheap, quick, and easy. And I talked to Mike Giannetti about this, the founder of Spot Track and everything, when he was on my show. But, you can get a slot cornerback or a high-level slot cornerback for, $6-7 million in the NFL. They had Kevin Johnson there on a $3.5 million deal. He was terrible. He's gone. They're going to let him walk. They could go out and get, Troy Hill or Mike Hilton or Brian Poole, a high-level slot corner guy who's going to be on the field 80% of the time for just a couple $1 million more. And I think that's a really smart move that they should do, and I think they'll probably jump on that. That's one place they can get better, cheap, easy, and quick.
So you're telling me that defensively is the top priority?
For sure. Safety is there too. I can get to that too if you want. I think they should go after safety. The big thing there, they have two safeties, right? So they have Grant Delpit, who missed his whole rookie year. He's going to be a stud, I think. Looks good in his recovery and everything, but he high draft pick there. And they acquired Ronnie Harrison Jr. from the Jaguars in a great move mid-season for a 5th-round pick. He ended up the 9th-ranked safety at PFF. So they've got him and Delpit as their starters probably back there.
I forgot about Delpit. I loved him out of LSU. I totally forgot.
You're right, though. Here's the thing. Joe Woods wants to play 3 safeties on the field a lot of the time. That's what his base is. He wants to play with. So as far as safeties go, there's John Johnson. I always say Joe Johnson. John Johnson III from the Rams is a high-level one. They could go after a mid-level guy like Keanu Neal, I really like a lot, who's more of a box safety and can cover the slot and stuff like that. Or they could even go after, let's see here, who's my guy? I really like Jaquiski Tart. From San Francisco, played with Joe Woods before. He's a free agent. He could get pretty good value. And the steal of the free agency class, mark this down, LaMarcus Joyner, from the Raiders. They cut him just a couple days ago. They've been playing him out of position all season long. So, if you look at his grades, they played him at corner and free safety. At corner, he's god-awful. Terrible. Right. Can't guard a door. At free safety, he grades out of this just amazing, right? Probably one of the best free safety grades that you can see. It shows on the tape, too. He passes the eye test. You can get him on the cheap and play him in the right position, and all of a sudden you have a free safety. So I think that he's a guy that's on the market that somebody will jump on, too.
So final question here, talking with Brad Ward. Love having you on. Thank you so much for taking the time out. Brad, what is the ceiling for this team? Because I think they should go back at least to the AFC Championship. I really believe that. We're seeing in the NFL, especially now, that everyone loves to pass. But when you can control the clock with their 2 running backs, you keep people like Patrick Mahomes off the field. And that's a great way to win. You don't have to be great defensively, but if you could keep them off the field like they did for a lot of part when they played the Chiefs and they lost 22-17, I got to assume that this team is built to make a championship run over the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, man, if you think about that game and some of the breaks, I mean, it's haunting, right? Like Higgins going into the end zone in the first half, the ball goes out of the back of the end zone.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
lose 7 points there on like the stupidest NFL rule ever. But whatever, that game, and if they get off the field, a couple times when their backup quarterback is in, Chad Henney's in, they can win that game, right? So, and Andy Reid, of course, big cojones, throws it on third down and short or whatever at the end of the game there. But I think the improved defense is huge, right? Combined with that running game and the way Mayfield really started to, not just in play action, but in just a straight drop back passing game, look like the guy that they took at number one out of Oklahoma towards the end of that year and in the playoff run. Looked excellent. I just think if they can build on that for another year, this will be the first season he's in the same offense for a second year. Stefanski was a great play caller last year. Think about all the wrinkles he can add on to that this year. Finally, they have some continuity to build on there. NFL Coach of the Year. I really think that the sky's the limit for him. I trust his scheme and his play calling a ton, even more than the personnel sometimes. So I think they got the right guy in place. I think they should go back to the AFC Championship game and challenge. But I think the year that they could really do it is 2022, year 3 under Stefanski. If you give them another year under Stefanski to get everything kind of right and really, really in this thing, I think that they can really take a run at it this year and even next year, probably more. I would think would be the year that, because you see teams take a step further. So like if they got to the AFC Championship game, it'd be one more step this year. If they got to the Super Bowl, that'd be another step, and then you just got to take advantage of the moment at that point.
yeah. And listen, I lived in Cleveland for a year in Westlake. I loved spending time in Cleveland. It is a fun place to be when your team is winning. And just last question here. What a difference it makes, right, to cover a team that going into Sunday, you have a chance to win, where, like, as a Jet fan for decades, my whole thing is if we play perfect, we might have to win. So talk about, like, doing your show and what a difference being around a winning team makes for you.
Oh, no question. I mean, it's absolute blast. I mean, I love it anyways, but this is, it's so much fun, especially when you're talking about adding depth at positions and getting better around a core of young players instead of starting from scratch. It's a completely different thing, and just the enthusiasm behind the team is just incredible. So, I mean, last year, Buffalo was really good. The Browns were really good. No fans there to enjoy it. Of all these years, finally, those two teams, right? And they were kind of like kindred spirits, Bills Mafia and Browns fans. So, and no fans there. So hopefully we get all the fans in there, and enjoy it this year. So
Brad,
I think
love having you on. We'll have you on after the draft to see what the Browns do if you're available. Anything I could do to help you. You're doing great on social media. Love listening to you. Love having you on. How can we support you?
I write at USA Today Sports Media Group's The Browns Wire, which is a publication that I write at. Just finished my free agency files, did a free agency file on all the Browns free agents this offseason. And All Eyes on Cleveland YouTube channel. Check it out, subscribe. You'll enjoy it. We have great guests on every week, and we'll keep you connected, not just to the Browns.
I have to subscribe to that. What is that again? What is
it's
that?
It's just All Eyes on Cleveland at YouTube or whatever the YouTube. Just type in All Eyes on Cleveland. You'll see it there. We signed on with Blue Wire Podcasts, so I feel really good about that. So we are now on the Blue Wire Network, and that's awesome for us. It's a big step forward for the podcast. So. And you can find the podcast wherever all popular podcasts are found. But we have great guests and not just Browns, but we talk about all the whole NFL and everything too. So if you're a fan of other teams, tune in as well. I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Definitely, I'll check that out. And subscribe to All Eyes on Cleveland on YouTube. Also subscribe to Nuts and Bolts Sports on YouTube. Brad, we'll see you down the road. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. You're the best.
Great job. That was Brad Ward. Always does a tremendous job. Went a little long, but you know what? I lived in Cleveland for a year, so I know how passionate they are. Let's give him a big, big round of applause. Now we're going to have two of Nuts and Bolts Sports finest. We're bringing on Greg Rector and the one and only Jeff Barnes. Jeff, I'm going to start with you because I'm annoyed as hell, but you're wearing your Georgetown Hoya. Patrick Ewing finally did it. I'm going to have Joe on the show Tuesday. I don't think Patrick Ewing's doing a great job, but he won the Big East tournament. Talk about where this team is. Oh, Jeff, we can't hear you. Jeff, you're on mute. Hold on. Unmute. Hold on. Let's see if we can get this. Okay, go ahead. Jeff, hold on. Let's see here. Unmute the mic. Hold on 1 second. All right, Jeff, I'm gonna have you come back in because oh wait, I think we have it. All right, Jeff, you there?
You dropped me out. There we are.
There you go. All right, talk about Patrick Ewing and what is going on with this program.
Listen, we've seen over the past year, he's still trying to sort it out what kind of players he wants, the right kind of players, a lot of people say. And here you are. He turned it around at the right time. They got hot going into the tournament. They ran right through a lot of very good teams.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think Greg is holding up a Georgetown jacket. What the hell is going on here?
Listen, man, I've been a fan of them since the '80s. They had the original Hoya Paranoia teams, Michael Jackson, Pat Ewing, that whole group. So This is a good feeling to see them back, man. He's been trying to build it back. He wants to make it more of a upbeat team. If you remember when John Thompson III there, they were a very plodding team, that slow Princeton offense, very methodical. If they had really good players and smart players, they were able to succeed. But when they didn't, it looked very bad. He's been trying to get it to where they have athletic players at all 5 positions, and they're starting to get those guys, and the kids are starting to get it.
I'll tell you a funny story. Growing up, I was a big Syracuse fan. Pearl Washington, Derek Coleman, right? And then what happened? Yeah. This is true. What happened is once I started coaching college basketball, I'd work summer camps. We drove down and we went to see Mike Krzyzewski practice. I went to see Jim Boeheim practice, and I'm like, this is a high school practice. From that, it was so undisciplined. Nobody cared. They'd play the 2-3 zone. They'd run up and down. I don't even think Jim Boeheim, every coach, and I know this from coaching, has a minute breakdown. He didn't even have it. It was so unorganized. I said I could no longer support this team. And I always was a Duke and Syracuse fan, but after seeing how disciplined Mike Krzyzewski was and how they ran things and what a joke Syracuse was, I switched. So, Greg, you're on the Georgetown bandwagon now? Is that what you're telling me?
Oh, no, I've actually had that since the 80s. That jacket since the 80s. And I know how much you love throwbacks. So, you know.
Listen, all the credit in the world. I said this a few weeks ago on my show. I said, this is Patrick Ewing's 4th year. If he doesn't win this year, I'm done with him because it takes you 2-3 years to build a program. By the 4th year, and listen, I watched this game. I was actually rooting for him. So, you know what? Great job. And let's move on from the Georgetown Hoya mania that's going on across the country right now. All right, Greg, we're going to talk about something that I'm sure you're happy about. Dak Prescott finally got paid 4 years, $160 million, 66 guaranteed. Talk us through this, because on the outside looking in, I think Dak Prescott took Jerry Jones to the cleaners.
Well, sure he did, and he had all the leverage, so why not? That's the marketplace, right? I mean, that's simply what it is. The market bears this out. Plain and simple, Dak is going to be number 2 right now. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, they're good. They got contracts coming up here, so that might not be the case for very long.
But Greg, how did he have the leverage when he's coming off a season where he was injured and he missed 90% of the season?
If you watch that press conference, so Jones has actually flat out admitted he is the leader of that franchise. Plain and simple. When you have that type of leadership that Dak does display, you're gonna get paid more for that. Plain and simple.
So you have no problem with this contract. You don't think they overspent?
No, because the market bears this out. And unfortunately, you know my feelings about the quarterback position. Too much credit, too much blame. This is a team sport, right? But that one position is, and we have to live with it, It is valued to that degree. So because it's valued to that degree, you're going to get what you get. Live with it. And they were able to structure it. They were able to structure it so it does not hurt the rest of the franchise.
By the way, it hurts me so much to have the Dallas Cowboy background up. You guys have no idea. But I'm just going to say this. Okay, Jeff, let's talk about this. When they signed Ezekiel Elliott, they paid him as a top 3 running back. When they signed Amari Cooper, top 3 wide receiver. Now they signed Dak Prescott. Not one of those guys is top 3 in their position.
Well, you also have to look at the offense they're playing in. You know, it's different from when Amari first got there. He was the guy. He was the receiver. Prescott is going to get paid that. We just talked about it. That's the market. Now, when it came to Ezekiel Elliott, you had to look at the point when he got signed. It's been 2 years now, basically, since after he's gotten money. Okay, was he one of the top 3 running backs at the position at the time? Yes, you had to pay him like so. Now we've seen a lot of things happen.
Wait. Hold on, Jeff. And I'm getting confused because I see the Dallas Cowboy helmet. I don't know what the hell's going on between Hoyas. Now all we got to do is bring a Notre Dame shirt in here, and it's like my hellish show. So
well, that is actually my playing helmet. So that's the caveat to it. That's actually game worn.
Listen to me. If the Knicks go out next year and they sign LeBron James to the most money ever for 3 years, and LeBron James is not a top 3 player, I don't want to care about marketing. I don't want to care about any of that stuff. It's not worth it. You're saying that when they signed him, they were the best. But the deal of a long-term contract is you need to be that player for the 4 or 5 years. Right now, Amari Cooper's not top 3. Dak is not top 3. And Ezekiel Elliott's not top 3. So I'm saying Jerry Jones, who's supposed to be this great business negotiator, is getting hosed by these contracts.
Grade out, but if you grade out Amari Cooper minus Dak for all that period of time last year, you grade Amari Cooper out, put Dak in with him last year, you tell me he's not top 3?
He was phenomenal with Dak, but he's getting paid.
Even without. Look at the numbers he put up without.
But at the end of the year, they were going to CeeDee Lamb. They were going to their 3rd wide receiver. I know this because I had Amari Cooper. He had 2 games where he didn't even have 3 catches. I had him in my fantasy league.
Once again, you have to go back to the offense, right?
That's
look
right.
Look at the weapons they have. Okay, like I said, you don't have to force feed Amari Cooper in this offense because why? You have people on the opposite side. You have Gallup, you have Lamb in the slot. All right, so and you still have a running game whenever the offensive line blocks for it. So it comes back to the offense. If you don't have to force feed that receiver, granted, the guy, like I said, you come back to it. He would have gotten more money had he left Dallas. So let's talk about that. So somebody would have spent more on Amari Cooper. There was actually a higher contract offer on him. He decided to come back for less to play with Dak in Dallas. So
and
the market rate was the market rate. Yeah,
that's right. And that higher contract belonged to your team, Monte. The New York Jets were going to give him $23 million.
Okay,
but that would have been career suicide because he'd have played for Adam Gase.
That's right.
All right, look, one of the things we talked about with Brad is Cleveland needs to improve the defense. Greg, one of the things I love is they hired Dan Quinn. I look at Dan Quinn a lot like I look like really successful coordinators, like a Norv Turner. Okay, like who was the guy with the Rams? He was a defense coordinator for the Rams. What's the name I'm thinking of, guys? Used to be defense coordinator of the Rams. Used to be the son of the guy who coached the Houston Oilers. What was his? I can't.
Wade
anyway,
Phillips.
Yes, Wade Phillips. Thanks, Greg, for letting me hang for 30 seconds. But here it is.
Well,
okay, I look at Dan Quinn, 46 and 44, like a Norv Turner, very good coordinator, like a Wade Phillips, very good coordinator, but can't be a head coach. Talk about what he's going to do for this defense.
Well, we're going to end up with a different scheme, the scheme that's going to fit the players that are there already, compared to what Nolan did, who tried to jam things down their throats that the players that we had just weren't capable of doing, really. Now, towards the end of the year, the Cowboys defense was playing much better. However, it's, again, the situation, much like Brad with Cleveland there, the secondary needs to be addressed. They definitely need a defensive tackle, a one technique. They need that monster up the gut that people cannot run against. 158 yards against on the ground per game is just a nightmare. Mm-hmm. So you've got to address those situations. And once Quinn comes in there with the system that he plays, I think you're going to see an improvement out of a guy that a lot of people are questioning. Is he a really skilled, et cetera, et cetera? But I love the kid. And I think Donovan Wilson is going to just thrive. He is going to thrive under Dan Quinn.
But you agree, even though they got better, Greg, they had to get rid of Nolan, right? I mean, it was a disaster from the start, right?
Yeah. I mean, Jeff and I talked about that last year. The scheme. Hello. These guys aren't suited to play 3-4. They're not.
Well, I'm going to say this. Laura just said that there's a lot, and Andrea, there's a lot of blue on this show. And I'm just going to assume that because Greg's on here and Jeff's on here, I'm just going to assume that it's just in honor of the Duke Blue Devils not making the tournament.
Never.
I knew that would make it's Georgetown, it's Dallas Cowboys really annoying me. Okay, so Jeff, about the Cowboys, right? Matt Rule became the first coach and general manager in the history last year in his rookie year with Carolina. 7 picks all on defense. He drafted all 7 players on defense. This is what Dallas has to do, right?
No, you have to go best player available. The minute you start looking at picks and specific positions, you start to reach. Right?
That's right.
That's when you draft that guy. They made that mistake a couple of years ago when they said we needed a defensive end, and they drafted Taco Charlton and regretted it because TJ Watt is over there right now, is an all-pro in Pittsburgh, because they wanted a guy that played all 4 downs on his hand on the ground. They went Taco Charlton. So when you do have that philosophy, you have to have this. You reach.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And you cannot reach.
I don't understand this philosophy of not addressing your needs. The Dallas Cowboys defense was atrocious. Bring Dan Quinn's going to, but they need playmakers on defense. So, for example, when people say take the best player available, if there's a stud wide receiver out there, Dallas doesn't need him. So you have to go on defense.
Let me answer this one first.
Jeff, then we'll get Greg. Jeff.
All right. So we just talked about it, right? We talked about the contract for Amari Cooper. Well, guess what? Michael Gallup's up soon. All right. So you're going to lose somebody soon because you paid Amari Cooper. All right. Well, if you're sitting there at 10 and you look at all the guys you really want to go on, everybody else is rated behind, say, a Kyle Pitts. Is still sitting here at 10. Do you take Kyle Pitts, or do you reach down to somebody had later in the round for 15? Unless you're willing to trade backwards, you take Kyle Pitts, because you know what? When you lose Michael Gallup next year because you can't afford to pay him because you've paid everybody else on this offense, including your offensive lineman, well, now you need that young talent in the draft to help fill those gaps. Now, as far as addressing that defense, yes, they do need the talent. And guess what? If they don't get it in the first round, rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you stay with us for live draft coverage, trust me, this year we're covering all 3 rounds of the draft live here. You're going to hear us talking about a lot of guys in the day 2, day 3 range who can still fill gaps for you. This draft is loaded with that mid-round talent that can come in and compete.
That's right. And
Jeff's trying to confuse me with his bling. Okay, I'm going to repeat this again, and hopefully, Greg, you will get the answer. Okay, so if let's say Chase is available from LSU, or let's say Devontae Smith is available from Alabama, that's the best player on the board. The Cowboys don't need that, so you let that guy go and you draft defense. Why would you get another wide receiver who's going to get 50 snaps a game because you're so deep, instead of getting a defensive guy who's going to play 75 snaps? You can't take the best player available when you're loaded at one position.
Now, this is where we address what's coming up this week, though. We have free agency. Do the Cowboys, and we have money. And the commitment came from Steven the other day that we're going to do something in free agency. So let's say they are able to address the defensive tackle. Let's say they're able to find a safety named Patrick Peterson, who used to really be a good cornerback, and he can come in and now move to safety and give that veteran leadership in the secondary. All of a sudden, you've already addressed a couple of very big needs in free agency. You could take that guy that's going to make Dak Prescott that much more dangerous in Kyle Pitts if he's there.
I can't believe what you guys are saying. I can't believe
You
it.
have to understand, Monty, you have to understand how to build this franchise. You have to
build this franchise by building both sides equally.
Yes, but you know I'm a defense first guy. Now, personally,
that's why I don't believe why you're saying this.
Yeah, but you have to look at the second and third and fourth year down the road too. You can't just say this year. Now, what you're dealing with this year is a completely different scenario in this draft. Now, there's no combine. There's all these little pro days going on, right? Mm-hmm. That's all you've got. You've got a shortened season for so many guys. You've got guys who set out because of COVID-19. You have all these factors. I'm telling you, outside of Penei Sewell, who did sit out, right? I am not sold. But I'm not sold on any of these offensive tackles as coming in here and being the next God's gift to an offensive line. I'm really not. I'm not sold on Caleb Farley. Caleb Farley played in the ACC. You show me where the wide receivers in the ACC are frightening. Patrick Surtain played against the SEC boys.
Okay, let me just change this, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, but let me just change this. So let's just say by some crazy scenario, the Cleveland Browns are up and Travis Etienne from Clemson is available. You're saying that the Cleveland Browns should draft Travis Etienne, who's going to get 15 carries instead of drafting an edge rusher?
No, they're in a different scenario. They are in a different scenario. You have to look at the fact that we've also just did the reshuffle of the big boys up front. They're going to be there. So Smith, Collins, and Martin are staying. They're not going anywhere.
My question is, Jeff, answer this, please. How is Dallas going to attract free agents now when all their money is tied up in basically 5 players?
Well, you have to look at how they go after free agents. They don't go after the top of the line free agents. They go after the mid-market free agents. So those guys are going to be there, and they're going to be there even longer. So like I said on Twitter, you're going to see a lot of guys sign a lot of short-term, swallow this year deal because they know that the cap money for many teams is not there. There's about 6 or 8 teams that have a good amount of cap money, and everybody else is fighting and struggling to get underneath it. So there's going to be a lot of short-term deals, a lot of guys that take a little bit of a discount just to get their year in and get paid this year because then next year revenue goes back up. They're bringing people back into the stands. So your parking revenues there, your stadium food revenues there, your ticket revenues there, all that money comes back. Your advertiser revenue comes back. All that stuff comes back.
That's right. And we will not be in the marketplace for guys that cost compensatory picks. Steven and JJ do not like helping other teams. So look for the guys who have just been cut that have no compensatory picks. That's who the Cowboys will come after. So that's the market.
All right, Greg.
And 11 picks.
Yep.
Greg, let's start with you. What is the ceiling for this team? The NFC East is an absolute disaster. Now that you got your boy playing quarterback, is it NFC championship game or bust? Or is it, hey, let's make the playoffs. Let's try to win one game. What's a successful season?
Winning the NFC East and seeing what happens come playoff time.
But you don't have them saying, hey, we got to get to the NFC championship game or it's a failure of a season.
My personal wish is that they get Aaron Rodgers to come to AT&T in January and that we bury him once and for all.
All right. What about you, Greg? Jeff, what's your ceiling for this team?
My ceiling for this team right now, at best case scenario, is they win the division, they get the top seed in the bye, and they're able to advance through the divisional round to the NFC Championship. My floor for them, however, is going to be 9-7. They sneak in as a wild card and have to go on the road. I think right now, with the way they're built, once again, this defense is going to need this. This offseason is going to be the key. All right. We saw what happened last year when they didn't have an offseason. It was just dreadful watching that defense play, trying to plug in new players. Right.
Whoa.
The fact that they're going to have offseason this year with a coordinator who actually is going to look at the personnel and say, this is what I can do, not try and force feed stuff that guys weren't built for. Okay. I guarantee you this will be a lot better defense. Will the offensive line be healthy? Once again, they still need tackle help. Granted, they had a couple of players last year step up. Terrence Steele, was dreadful at the beginning of the season, played halfway decent towards the end. But they need tackle depth because Tyron Smith just hasn't played 16 games in the past 4 years. And now you're going to ask him to play 17 now. So you need tackle depth. You need that offensive line to be healthy to protect your $40 million quarterback, the open holes so Zeke can actually get to the second level untouched for once, because I'm tired of seeing him fight, for 2-yard runs when there's no hole.
Right.
So we have to get that back. And then all of a sudden, yes, that Amari Cooper will look like a top 3 receiver again. that deal will look good. All right. That'll look good for people. So those things are going to happen. Michael Gallup will have a great year so he can go into free agency and rack up next year.
There's no way Michael Gallup comes back, right? They can't afford him.
No. They've dealt the hand already. And that's another reason why the good thing about Lamb falling in their lap last year was a great thing, because now he has 2 years in the offense. So when Gallup leaves, he slides in. So if you do take another wide receiver, there's your third guy when Gallup moves on.
If Gallup takes another wide receiver, I'm going to lose my mind.
I'm hoping that, Surtain or Horn are there at 10 so they can fill in the cornerback position that they're losing this year, because that's going to be the decimated position for them. They had a lot of young guys.
But again, Jeff, you've been grading guys. Yeah. How many corners are sitting in that second and third round? Yeah, but they're going to need one that's going to have to step in and possibly start right away. You had Diggs last year. They're going to ask him to start this year. I don't see them using him. Again, it depends. It depends what happens this week when everything starts tomorrow, right? If they find a corner, then they don't have to worry about it. And then what I'm doing is I'm going to go out and I'm going to get the most disruptive defensive player in this draft. JOK from Notre Dame. You move Jalen into the middle, and you take this kid. You take this kid who can just stop the run, and he can cover like nobody's business, because every offense is predicated on their mismatches. Oh, really? Well, we're going to mismatch you right back. This kid has the coverage ability to stop what offenses love to do in the NFL. That's why JOK would be my ultimate number 10 at 10.
I mean, Cowboy talk, Dak talk, Notre Dame talk. It's just really, you're draining me, Greg. All right, I'm going to change the background up, and we're going to and look, see, now we have some NBA stuff. Sigh of relief getting that Cowboys out of there. All right, let's do rapid fire question for you guys. Greg, who is your MVP of the NBA?
Well, now that Mr. Embiid's going to miss a couple of weeks, Jokic. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, listen, we all saw the Embiid injury. I posted it on social media. It looked like he was done. It was bad. Yeah. Thank goodness he's only out 2 or 3 weeks. All right, Jeff, again, rapid fire question. I'm taking Devontae Smith. My brother says I'm way off here. He's taking Jamar Chase of LSU. If you had to pick one of these two guys, you're the draft guru expert. Who are you taking and why?
I'm going to take Chase just for the fact that I like the guy that can play the X, the Y, or in a slot. In a Z, or in the slot. Devontae Smith, I love him to death. I just don't think he's an X. I think he's a Z or a slot. Both of them are dynamic playmakers. Both of those guys are excellent route runners. Jamar Chase has a lot more to grow. So I think both of those guys, listen, you can't go wrong on either one. To me, if I'm there and I need a guy that's going to be that I can move all over the formation, Jamar Chase is my guy.
But it's really 1 versus 1A, right? You can't go wrong with either one of these.
No, you can't.
Okay. All right. Greg, what are we doing here with the Raptors? Are they going to move off from Kyle Lowry? Would you go after someone like Drummond? What do they need to do? The fact that this team is even competitive, considering they haven't been home all season, is a miracle.
Well, I think they may make a deal with Lowry. The problem is what comes back, and the way that everything shakes out, unless it's a straight up deal with Miami, every other deal out there that would involve Lowry, you have to get a third team involved. Every single one of them. So because it would have to be a three-way deal, it really becomes hard to figure out what would end up being that deal in the long run, right? And if it's Drummond, I'm not sold on it. I would rather them just basically give Kyle away for picks and stock up.
Would you have a problem with that, Greg? Would you have a problem say, hey, we're not going to make a deep playoff run. Let's build for the future. You know, other than Kawhi Leonard with the trade, you're not. I don't know why, because Toronto's a great city to live in, especially what's going on in America with healthcare and all this other stuff. What would you be okay with them drafting players? Because that's really how they have to build if they're not going after the big free agents.
Well, what free agents now? Giannis signed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the plan. So without Giannis being available, I think you move into build through the draft again.
Okay. So you have no problem maybe not getting players back, or some players who are at the tail end, you could let them go next year with the contract and just trade Lowry for picks. You have no problem with that.
I got no problem with that. No.
Okay. All right.
And
listen. Okay, good.
It just provides them with cap relief as well, right? The salary cap relief would be huge.
I would love for the Knicks to get him. I just think he provides leadership.
Yep.
Right now, the Knicks are going to make the playoffs. They may be a 7th and 8th seed, but they're super young, right? You bring in Lowry, who can come in and he's got a ring. We know Lowry in playoff time struggled all those years over the last couple of years. I said this last week on the show. 2 years ago, he was the best player in the fourth quarter of the All-Star game. He almost got into a fight with Chris Paul. I mean, Lowry has really, really developed and matured. I would love to see the Knicks get him. All right, Jeff, are you taking Najee Harris of Alabama, or are you taking Travis Etienne? Etienne just ran a 40-yard dash, 4.40. Who are you taking here?
Etienne. Here's a guy that last year, had he come out, he was fighting for number one with Dobbins for me. All right. Comes out this year, he's my number one. Najee Harris, you can't go wrong with him. Don't get me wrong. And he's shown that he can do all of the things that ETN does, except the special teams. ETN could also return kicks for you as well. So he factors into all three phases of the game. He's an explosive player in all three phases of the game. Pass catcher, receiver, and even pass protector. So Travis Etienne checks the boxes for me. He's got, and if those is worried about character, guess what? His character is up there too. So Travis Etienne is my guy.
Now, do you think he goes in the top 10? Because we know we don't like taking running backs. No, he doesn't.
No, I don't think he goes in the top 10. And it's just because of the fact that teams are going to address other needs prior to the running back position. All right. And that's what it's come down to now. Trust me, he's going to be in my top 25 players by the time my rankings are finished. All right. So the fact of the matter is that teams still are going to look at the running back position and say, you know what? We can pump the brakes on that and still get somebody quality later. There's going to be a team that finally says, listen, it's 10-1. It'll be one of the teams that has the 2 draft picks in the first round that uses their second pick, just like the Raiders did with Jacobs a couple of years ago.
The Jets could do that. The Jets could do that.
And the Jets could use them. And the Jets could.
Jets could do it at 23. I don't see the Dolphins doing it at 18, but Etienne's 2 worst games, Jeff, last year. Who were they against? The 2 worst games that he had.
Here we go.
And
Notre Dame, baby.
They didn't need him the second time around, though.
No, they didn't. Because we know when Notre Dame gets to the Final Four, they don't show up. So that's a whole other issue right there. All right, Greg, who's going to your final in the West, and who's going to the Final Four in the East and the Final Four in the West? I don't like this Laker team as constituted. I thought that Anthony Davis, after winning a championship, would come back hungrier and nastier. He's been as soft as they can be. They won a title with him, so good for him. But as constituted, if the Lakers don't make a move, they're not getting to the Western Finals.
No, they won't. And then it's unfortunately probably the squatters.
Clippers?
Yeah, those guys, the squatters.
And you like Denver, right?
I love Denver. when Malone gets those guys to play defense and then go, I love watching that team because they can move the ball so beautifully. They execute very, very well at the offensive end, but it's their defense that scares me.
Yeah. And also, Greg, they're never healthy. Their guys are never healthy.
Yeah, for some reason they can't, but timing is everything, right? Let's just say those last 12 games going into the playoffs, they are healthy. If that's the case, they are a scary, scary team.
Listen, we saw it with Georgetown. You get hot at the right time. And here's the funniest thing. The guy with the worst body in the league always seems to be healthy, and that's Jokic, right?
Yeah.
He looks like he should be in a beer league, at the YMCA, but he's always healthy. Listen, I've been saying this, and I want to not write an article about this. I want to not do a show about this. And yes, get ready to have your drink, because in his 18th year, why is LeBron James, yes, LeBron James, take a shot. Why does he still have to be the best passer, the best scorer, the best rebounder in the fourth quarter? Every year, it's the same thing.
Every year. And it's the biggest, how you see a team have a letdown when their star player comes back from an injury. You notice those, okay, he's back, everything's fine, right? Well, that seems to be the attitude every single night. And he's not coming off an injury, right?
And what gets me so frustrated is Tom Brady threw 3 interceptions against Green Bay, and his defense picked him up. If LeBron is an all-world, no one picks him up.
No, and that's the thing that makes LeBron as great as this guy is. Plain and simple, night after night, boom, 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 boom. You're getting what you get from LeBron, and it's at a level that is unbelievable.
Yeah, Brad brings up a good point. Quinn Snyder, Duke boy, is absolutely doing a phenomenal job in Utah. I just don't think they have a number 2 scorer. Donovan Mitchell is super fun to watch, but when Rudy Gobert is like your second option sometimes, I know they have shooters. Jordan Clarkson should win 6th Man of the Year, but I just don't think Utah has a legitimate number 2 guy. Do you guys agree with that?
Yep. And the lack of playoff basketball on that team, that's going to bite them.
Yeah. All right. Listen, Jeff, is this the best QB prospect to come out in the last 20 years? Because I got to be honest with you. You have people on ESPN grading him as a top 3 behind Peyton Manning. I think John Elway was number 1. They're saying Trevor Lawrence is the greatest prospect to ever come out of the college football.
No.
I don't know about that one. I will not co-sign that at all. Listen, he's the highest quarterback I've graded in the last 3 or 4 years. But there have been quarterbacks, I'm guarantee you, Peyton Manning's grade was way higher than that. Elway's grade was higher than that. And there have been others. If you didn't say Aikman coming out of UCLA wasn't higher than that, you should be smacked. There are so many guys you could have graded higher than Lawrence. Granted, he came in. He's been a winner ever since. He's been a winner at every level. He has the talent. He has the mentality. The one thing you want to see, though, is, you saw it the last couple of times in the playoffs when he didn't win, is because the other guy stepped up and he wasn't able to match the intensity. You want to see him able to match the performance of a quarterback that is red hot. Otherwise, at the NFL level, guess what? There are going to be plenty of guys that get red hot. And if you can't match it, your team loses. So he's got to step it up if he wants to be what he's going to be graded out as at the next level. I have him as a first-round grade, and he's one of the few first-round grades on my board. But overall, once again,
I watched him play for 3 years.
Is a stretch.
This is what I said. This is what I said about Deshaun Watson. Okay, I said Deshaun Watson was going to be a stud because Nick Saban had 8 weeks to prepare for him in back-to-back championship games, and Deshaun Watson lost, and then he won. He was the best player on the field. His freshman year, Trevor Lawrence ate up Nick Saban's defense. So I look at Trevor Lawrence, and I'm not saying he's the greatest prospect of all time. It's hard to win early on as a quarterback because you're going to a team that sucks. I mean, Justin Herbert got lucky because that team was stacked on both sides of the ball despite their conservative coach. So What is a successful season for Trevor Lawrence? Is it 6 wins in Jacksonville? Is it 8 wins? I mean, how good can this guy be before you think he gets to a Pro Bowl? How many years?
Oh, you got to give him a couple of years here easily. But the whole thing is when you look at both Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson that everybody's all hyper about right now, neither one of them have what Fields has, which is far more games on a bigger stage.
Well, wait.
You got to take this. No, you got to take this into account.
I agree with what you're saying. I'm talking about
regular season and the playoffs, okay, etc. You got to take that into account.
But
and people are grading this guy against a conference that is not a true powerhouse conference.
Right, but that's not his fault. Right?
No, it isn't his fault. You get the competition that you get, right? You have to play the games that are on your schedule. That's fine and dandy. But what I'm talking about is Saturday after Saturday after Saturday on the biggest of stages.
Right, Trevor Lawrence didn't have to be great every week, week in and week out. He just got to be great in the Final Four in the ACC championship. Jeff, I get the feeling you're not high on him.
You talk about Wilson?
Lawrence. On Lawrence.
No, listen, he's the top quarterback on my board. He's quarterback 1. All right. Yeah. And I know everybody likes Zach Wilson, and I like Zach Wilson, just not as high as number 2 on my board, or even number 3. Okay, he has arm talent. There's no denying the athleticism, but when you look at what Zach Wilson is, and you talk about Trevor Lawrence, you're talking about, yes, the level of competition everybody talks about, but that's the knock on every mid-major and small school quarterback to talk about level of competition. So that part is what it is. You know, and when you look at Lawrence, like I said, he's played against the best. He's done all that. But when it comes down to it, when he's lost in those big games, right? When he's lost in those big games, it's because that other quarterback on the other sideline has stepped up and he's remained here, right?
Yep.
We talked about it. You've got to elevate when the moment calls for it. And that's what the question that he's going to have when he gets to the NFL is, can he do that on a regular basis? Because
exactly,
you're playing against the best of the best. There's no better than the NFL. All right. So if you can't elevate when that guy on the other side is doing better, then you're gonna have a problem. As far as his ceiling in Jacksonville is successfully, you want him in 3 years to have the ability to put you in the playoffs. Okay. If you're building this team now, okay, with a new head coach, new GM, you're doing all this new direction stuff. Within 3 years, you want to see him pushing you towards or getting you in the playoffs. If he's not doing that, there better be a good reason why around him that you're not doing that. If you don't have the running backs that stepped up, if the offensive line that you haven't fixed it yet for some reason, if the defense can't hold anybody down, then you can say, okay, you know what? He's not our problem. Let's move on. But if in 3 years you're looking at it and going, he hasn't elevated anything, and he's not helping us get to where we need to be, maybe we need to start investigating whether he really was the option that we needed.
That's right.
Okay, yep. I have Trevor Lawrence as my number 1. I have Trey Lance out of North Dakota State as my number 2. I have Justin Fields.
It's got to be a green and gold thing. I like Trey Lance. Listen.
I have him higher than Justin Fields. Is that crazy?
That's not crazy. Some people do have that. Listen, Justin Fields is one of those guys that you like him, you don't like him as much. I happen to like him enough to put him at number 2. Okay. Yep. Trey Lance right now is my number 3. He moved up. You know, he moved up.
I have Trey Lance higher than Wilson. A lot of people are really high on Wilson. I have Trey Lance there.
I do too.
And the other guy that I think is really getting slandered without just cause is Mac Jones.
Yeah. Listen, Mac Jones just won. Yeah.
This kid is highly intelligent. And the offensive coordinator from Bama just said, I ran more intricate stuff the last 5 games of the season with him, high level pro stuff with Mac Jones, and they executed it beautifully. So Mac Jones, why he's being smacked around by so many, I don't get it, because I watch him and I see a guy that takes progressions very well.
Mm-hmm.
He avoids being hit when needed. He's not the most mobile guy in the world, but he's just a smart quarterback.
No, I think that's the knock on him. If this was 15 years ago, Mac Jones would probably be a top 5 pick because you didn't have to run and throw. Now, if you listen, who won the Super Bowl for the 7th time? Tom Brady. The guy's never been able to run.
That's right.
So
you don't need to.
Fine. We have like another minute or two here talking with Greg Rector and Jeff Barnes. Where's this guy going? Where's your boy going? Where's this guy going, Greg?
Listen, he's
Wall Street.
He's gonna be in somebody's camp, whether he gets drafted
he will be.
day 3 or he goes in as undrafted.
Does he get drafted? I think someone's got to take a flyer on him late in the last.
I think he may get drafted, but then look at a few of the quarterbacks last year that didn't get drafted, ended up on rosters. Yeah, look at the kid from Penn State. He was a guy I thought was going to get picked day 3, ended up with the Ravens. So there's certain guys. I mean, Ian Book is not a terrible quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback. He wasn't a top tier quarterback at Notre Dame, and that's part of the reason why when we talk about Notre Dame and the failures they have, there's 2 positions where they don't get the elite players anymore: quarterback and cornerback. Right?
That's right.
They don't have corners that can lock a receiver down. They haven't had it in many years, and they don't have a quarterback who transcends the game. They just don't have it anymore. And those are reasons why they have good teams. They don't have championship teams.
Okay, Greg, you never answered the final question. Who's going in the Eastern Conference? Who makes the Final Four?
Boy.
I think Brooklyn's going to steamroll everyone till they get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, and I think it's Philly, and I think Philly beats them.
I hope so, because the last thing I want to see is James Harden playing for a title.
Well, I mean, I don't like the other guard that's in on that team, as you know, Mr. Flat Earth, educated. Where did he go to school again? He went to that. What?
Listen, he was a rental. He played like 14 games. He was a rental. All right, Jeff, final question for you. Give us someone no one knows who Sewell is if you don't follow football. The offensive lineman who sat out for Oregon, he's going to go in the top 5. Give us someone who people aren't talking about, but he's going to go in the top 15 and is going to be a stud next year. That's not getting a lot of media attention.
Well, it's kind of hard because the top 5 are all getting talked about.
Right. But I'm saying someone that's not.
I mean, if you want to talk tackles that aren't getting talked about, I don't see him going top 15, but I see him going late first round, early second, who's going to actually last a long time in the NFL, and that's Liam Eichenberg from Notre Dame. And I know you're tired of hearing about Notre Dame guys, but
they went to the Final Four. So listen, I said this to you. Their head coach is the most underappreciated head coach. It's impossible to recruit there. He wins 10, 11 games every year, and people want him fired because they're not winning national championships. How's it working out in Michigan? Michigan has more guys going to the pros, and he can't even win 10 games.
And they just fired a good defensive coordinator as a result, too.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, Eichenberg, I think, is going to be the guy that lasts a very long time. He's not Mike McGlinchey's popular, but overall, he's a guy that when he was on Notre Dame's line, they were very good no matter which position he played, whether it was left tackle, right tackle. Liam Eichenberg was a fixture on that line. It was very good. Yep. He has the skill set to transition to the next level and be a very good starter at the next level. Will he be all pro? Maybe, maybe not. But listen, I'll take a very good starting tackle any day over a guy who has a high ceiling of all pro, low ceiling of bust.
How late will he go?
I say he's going to go late
second round.
Latest will be late second. I think he goes as late though as he can go late first round. If there's a nice run on tackles in the first round, he can sneak his way back up into the first.
All right, Greg.
I'll give you one other guy for me, and it's Tevin Jenkins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! You talk about a guy that loves to finish.
Yeah.
Oh, he wants to run you over, stomp on you, and rip out your throat.
Yeah. He has that nasty disposition.
Yeah.
The one scary thing about him is in his pass sets, he gets very grabby.
grabby,
And that's
right?
that's going to be something that gets called a lot at the next level.
Yeah, exactly.
But otherwise, he has that. Yeah, he has that nasty position you want out of an offensive lineman, big time.
You coming down any dark alley with this guy, and you're safe.
And what is he? 6'6", 330, 320?
Yeah,
325, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't gotten his exact measurements yet, but yeah.
Yeah, I think he's 6'6", 320, 325.
Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, I love, one of the things I love, I don't watch a lot of scouting combine stuff, but one of the things I love watching is when you see an offensive lineman just pancake someone and just literally just keep pounding on them, drive them to the ground, even if it's 6-7 yards down the field. Yeah, he's 6'6", 320.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So this is all Jeff's fault, by the way, that I've gotten into doing this. It's all Jeff's fault.
That's good. That's good. Everybody should pay attention to it.
And that's right. And I am also watching a certain program that he does now. Jeff?
Yeah. No, we're going to get to that. I'm going to give Jeff all the opportunity to talk about that. Greg, first, how can we follow you on social media?
There it is, at Greg Cowboys at Twitter.
And Cowboys and Raptors articles, correct?
Yep. And I once in a while, an occasional other topic or two.
All right, Greg. Thanks so much for having you on. We'll see you down the road. Really appreciate it.
All right. Take it easy, Monte.
Have a great Sunday. Oh, Greg, final question.
Yeah.
Have you gotten your first COVID vaccine shot yet?
No, we're going to be eligible up here. I can book an appointment this upcoming week as soon as we hit 1964. So, yeah. I
got my first shot because I work in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm going on the 22nd for my second one. I can't wait because I want to travel this summer. So hopefully, here in Florida, it's been a disaster. The only reason I got it is because people at work gave me a number to call, and they took me. They checked my ID, made sure that I wasn't, stealing the shot. But so that's good. So you're going to get it within the next couple weeks.
I think right now it's scheduling out about 21 days. So
all right, that's
3
good.
weeks.
Cool.
So
and it'll be safe.
Well, for me, it'll be the one shot. So
you're going with the one. Okay, yeah, that's good. That's good. I got the one, and my arm was sore. No major side effects. I'm going for the second one on the 22nd.
There you go.
So, all right, Greg. Thanks so much. See you down the road.
Man.
Love having you on. All right, Jeff. Talk about your two shows, Mr. Busy Man. I like to call you. Always prepping. Talk about your draft show and the other show that you stopped. And I think I was was I the first 2-time winner of that show?
I believe you were. I believe you won the first 2 times you were on there. Yeah.
Yes, I did. Okay.
Yeah, you're back-to-back wins for you. You were one of the hot guys. Then you vanished on me. But yes, you can catch me on Draft Central here on the Nuts and Bolts Sports Network. Wednesday nights, myself and Bill Carroll. This week we're going through our mock draft 2.0s, and we'll be talking offensive tackles, and we're trying to get one special guest on there, one of the prospects on to talk to him about that. So overall, that's where you'll find me now. There's no more no huddle necessary for me, but I do not rule out coming back on as a guest. But I think Dominic Chirasi is going to do a great job with the show. Yes,
that is true. But so every Wednesday at 9:00, the draft special. What are you doing draft night for Nuts and Bolts Sports?
Oh man, we are back again for live coverage of round 1. Plus, now we're going to be, myself and Bill Carroll, we'll be back night 2. And all of day 3. So you have us for all 3 days live. So that's going to be fun and exhausting.
Jeff, final question. Georgetown wins their first round NCAA tournament game, or are they one and done?
Depends on who they match them up with. I know I'm hearing them as high as 13, so I want to see who they match them up with. I think they could, if they get a decent matchup where they're not overmatched at a position, I think they could have a chance of pulling it off the upset in the first round.
There's no way they get a higher seed than 12, right?
No, I don't see them higher than 12. I mean, if they had a stronger regular season, I could see them as high as 8 or 9.
Right.
But since they had the regular season they did come on and win the tournament. They'll probably bump them up to a 12 at the highest. But I'm hearing 13 is their ceiling right now as a seeding. And like I said, depends on the matchup they get. If they get a matchup they're not facing somebody who has just an elite player that they can't stop, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah. No, listen, good for Patrick Ewing, 4th year It must feel so good to go back to your alma mater. You know, Juwan Howard, they lost, but they had a great year. They lost to Ohio State yesterday, but the coach of Michigan who played there as well. Jeff, how can we follow you on social media?
Of course, I'm at Jeff Barnes 29 on Twitter. I'm also at Cover 2 Draft. I still have Cover 2 Draft up and running, so we're still there. And of course, at NBS Draft Central.
Yeah, Jeff, love the information. I told you when we were at the Alabama-Michigan game, I learned so much just sitting there talking to you about college football and the players. So really appreciate your knowledge, and we'll have you down on after the draft as well.
By all means, I'm always available for you.
All right, thanks so much, Jeff. See you in a couple of weeks. That was Jeff Barnes. Always does a tremendous job of breaking down the NFL and the draft. I don't know if you're in. Oh, there you go. I was going to say I don't know if you're in the StreamYard or you're in the YouTube, the Nuts and Bolts YouTube Sports, but we really appreciate the time. And definitely listen, guys. Wednesday night, if you want to know about the draft, you've got to watch Jeff Barnes. Does a tremendous job. Has guys on the show who are looking to get drafted. He breaks it down. So definitely check it out Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Make sure you subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. Also subscribe to Brad Ward, All Eyes on Cleveland, Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. And we're going to close the show with this. We always like to close the show with my extra point. And look, Marvin Hagler, great boxer, died at 66 years old. Marvin Hagler said something to me that I really didn't say it to me, but it's something that I took forward. When he lost to Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler said, when I was training and I was coming up, I'd work out 3 times a day. I never went out. I'd go to the gym. I'd go home. I lived, breathed, slept boxing. He said, when I was training for Sugar Ray Leonard, I trained hard, but I didn't have the same hunger. He said, how can I have the same hunger when I live in a mansion, when I sleep in a king-side bed with a supermodel and silk sheets? I wake up in the morning, I have a chef cooking me whatever I want. He said, I didn't have the hunger I once had. Marvin Hagler passed away at 66, and I use his philosophy as an adult trying to make it in this industry. When I write articles, when I do shows, whatever I do, I never want to get to the point where I am so comfortable I lose that hunger. Marvin Hagler lost that hunger, and those words that he said, I'm not as hungry as I used to be, I never want that to happen to me. That is why I keep trying to do shows. That is why I keep cranking out articles. That is why in my spare time, I'm up late writing articles, doing research, because I never want to lose that hunger. And I remember that when he said that all those years ago. Marvin Hagler will be missed, a great boxer, a great champion. I want to thank Brad Ward for coming on. I want to thank Greg Rector, and I want to thank Jeff Barnes for making this show a tremendous success today. Remember, if you like this show, if you like sports and comedy, our goal is to do this 5 days a week. We are trending number 3 on YouTube. We want to get that to be number 1. We want to get that to be number 1. So please tell a friend, tell a coworker, tell a family member. And in the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back.